In another video, I did talk about Herodotus telling us about animals that were in existence. I mentioned he talks about ants that were the size of a dog. He talks about winged snakes, and I told you how this information that he provides in the book has been used to discredit his entire book. Some people will be like, there's no way there were ants that were the size of dogs and snakes that fly. But I mentioned that doing some research, I found out that there are fossils that have been found of winged snakes. So it's not like it's possible that Herodotus was describing animals that existed. Now, in this video, I'm going to have some more info about that topic, and this time is about Africa, which was Libya then. He was in this section of the book, Herodotus is telling us about the people who lived in Libya, which to him was like the Africa. And he talks about he describes a few animals, and I'm thinking they no longer exist. That's my understanding. He mentions about donkeys that have horns. I've never seen that. Maybe somebody has seen a donkey with horns somewhere. Maybe we do have a few existing somewhere. He does mention them in the book. I've never seen a donkey with horns, but he mentioned them as a matter of fact as something that was natural or something that was commonplace during his time. He mentions that traveling in Libya, you'll go to tribes and they had cattle and donkeys that had horns, and some donkeys did not have horns. Yeah, so he talks about that. He also talks about, in general, he talks about much of the south of Africa, like south of what we know today is the Sahara, was filled with different kind of animals. Even the Sahara itself, he mentions that there were so many animals: antelopes, giraffes, elephants, all kinds of animals and birds and crocodiles that were so huge, which we still have today. Maybe not in the Sahara, but to the south, the savannah in particular, we still have all these animals. But he does mention a few other animals that, if, for example, he says there was an animal that was headless, it didn't have an head. He doesn't give us its name, but he says it doesn't have its head, and the local used to say that the animal had eyes on its breasts. So yeah, there are those kind of weird animals that Herodotus mentions when he's talking about Africa. And of course, I had mentioned earlier when he was talking about Arabia and India with ants that were the size of dogs, and Arabia about the winged snakes. Now in Africa, he talks about Libya. That's how we knew it. He talks about these donkeys with horns and creatures that have no head but have eyes on their breasts. And then he talks about a particular breed of cattle whose oxen had horns that were shaped in a particular way that made it very difficult for them to graze while moving forward, so they had to graze while moving backwards. That to me seems like it's more relatable to the times you are living, because if you go to Uganda or South Sudan, you're likely to see these cattle with huge horns. So that seems like, okay, that's not far-fetched from us. So he talks about those oxen that will graze while walking backwards, because their horns were in such a way that if they grazed going forward, then their horns will get fixed on the ground. Yeah, so that's so the rest of the animals Herodotus talks about that were found in northern Africa and maybe the Sahel were the animals we know. But of course, there are then those few ones that are kind of weird. We don't know about them today. We don't see them today.